I'm going to introduce Eli. Eli Rabinowitz, who now lives in Perth, Australia, grew up in Johannesburg and Cape Town before he emigrated to Australia with his family in 1986. Comes from a musical family who have excelled on the bimah and the concert stage. He's an active and now board member of the International Jewish Genealogical Society, IAJGS. Eli travels extensively and has researched many families, including mine, communities and towns. He writes and circulates a blog and has assembled valuable material for 90 Kahila links websites for towns in Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Belarus, Germany, Russia, China, Mauritius, Mozambique, South Africa, and Australia. He has created In My Pocket, a project about the kinder transport for primary school children across the world, and the Partisan Song Project. And he's a co-founder of CHOL. CHOL, I don't even know how to pronounce this. CHOL.
However you like.
CHOL.
Depends if you're British or Australian.
Or it could be a CHOL.
Yes, CHOL.
Well,
right.
That's
So, over to you, Eli.
Over to me. Okay, cool. Everybody, you're going to enjoy yourselves. We're going to play quite a bit of music. I'm going to talk minimally. I've got Jill to read a couple of things for me because she's a beautiful reader. And we're going to start with some music. You can all see the first slide? Yes?
Yes.
يسمخ مويشه بماتناس خلكي كي يبد نمان كرسلاي كليل تفرس مرويش نصات والله بيوم دايل فانيخا الهر سيناي وشنيل خاصابنيم هريد بيادو وغصبهم شم يرمز شابوابوس يسمخ ميشه بمامت ناس هبكاي كي يبد نمان كي يبد نمان كرسلاي Der Schabes ist gegeben, bloß zu den Juden allein. Also ist in der Teure geschrieben, der Ried auf sich Schabes freien. Essen, trinken das Beste, was nur jeder vermogt. Kleider tragen die schönste, also hat uns Gott was leidet Zores und Aschir, ich hab es vergesst in alles, freilich ist sehr, freilich ist eine Schande, es freit sich euch sein Guf, der Schabes ist eine Chame, sein Simche hat gar keine Sorge. بماتناس خلكاي كي يبد نمان كي يبد نمان كرسالاي.
I'm working with two computers here because one's not working so well, but that was so clear. It was made in 1959. What a beautiful recording. both from the chazan's point of view and from the orchestra. And as you can see in the title, we are talking about the singing musical Rabinowitzes of South Africa, from cantors to the concert stage. You'll hear a little bit from Rabbi Louis Rabinowitz in a few moments, and please pay attention to that, because that is I'm not playing the whole speech, just part of the speech. It is amazing. Okay, next slide. Now, the good news is this whole presentation is being recorded, but I'm going to upload it to my drive, my Google Drive. I will send the link, whoever wants the link, and that link will be able to get you all these clips. Okay, so this is a family tree. I'm not going to spend any time except to say it's a very involved family tree, and that's where the Rabinowitzes come from. Okay, now my beautiful wife Jill is going to read this page for us.
Hi, everybody. So this is an extract from Sarah Stepanski, who was Sarah Rabinowitz, the youngest of the Rabinowitz family, and it's her memoir that she wrote in Jerusalem in 2011. I'm the youngest of 5 children. My oldest brother Leib and my second oldest brother Isaac were both born in Jerusalem, where my mother had also been born. My parents were married in Jerusalem. My father had come as a yeshiva bocher from a shtetl called Orla, which was not far from Bialystok, which is Poland today. My brother Zvi Hirsch, whom we called Harry, my sister Rachel and I were all born in South Africa. My brother Leib was very musical and served as a chazan from time to time. He also knew how to play the violin. My middle brother Isaac had studied to be a doctor and went on to practice in Johannesburg. My youngest of the 3 brothers, Harry, had a magnificent voice. He made a lovely record of Yiddish songs, and he was a chazan for many years. Not only did he sing chazonis, he sang opera in various languages. He could also play the piano and was most charming. That Harry is Eli's father. My only sister Rachel, who was 4 years my senior, was brilliant in maths and music and loved mountain climbing. Both she and I graduated from the College of Music at the University of Cape Town. Music runs in both my parents' families, and she was particularly gifted. Rachel had a phenomenal memory, and on occasion, when she had been in the audience listening to a performance of music, she would come home and sit down at the piano and play the music she had heard from memory. She was a concert pianist who performed with the city's orchestra in the city hall, but since she was Shomrei Shabbat, she was not given many opportunities to do the latter. Rachel used to play for the B'nai Zion organization and other good causes in order to raise money to help those in need.
As you can see, we didn't read out the whole paragraph there, so that was the summary. Now, one thing I want to say that's not in the script here about my auntie Rachel, as other members of the family, they were pretty eccentric, and I believe, well, she was Shomrei, they all were Shomrei, and at the end of Shabbat, if she had a gig with the orchestra, she got on her bicycle and she rode down the hill from Friedhoek all the way to the city hall in Cape Town. Okay, came in very schwitzerig, very uptight. She was artistic. She used to fight with David Tidbald, I believe, who was the conductor. She told him how to conduct, etc. But she was a real character, and I suppose any of you who are old enough to know the Rabinowitzes would know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm showing you just a quick outlook on a Kehila Linkadu for all of Poland, which is near Białystok, as they say it over there. And the man in the circle, the blue circle, is Mazeda, Nachum Mendel, and that's the rest of some of his clan. Fortunately, most of them got out and moved to Eretz Yisrael before the times of the Holocaust. Next slide. What I want to show you here is a recording that you're going to hear again, a very short recording, taken, shown in a shul in Orla, in this shul. And these gentlemen that I met, they met me and let me go into the shul. They're not Jewish, and you'll see the reaction of the one whose name is Wojciech, and it's so amazing the kind of connection that we made here. So I'll just play quickly.
That was a great idea.
Well, this came to my head.
Nie, chodziło o teraz, czy teraz się mówi, tak?
W ogóle.
A nie, tak, oczywiście.
So this is my grandfather, Nachum Mendel Rabinowitz, singing in a shul that he would have been in. And here we are in 2011, 100 years after he came to Africa.
And we can hear his voice.
And we can hear his voice.
Great.
And that was the amazing thing, is that my friend Wojciech, who was talking to me there, and I understood this concept of me being the first person to come back to this shul in Poland after all those years, and to bring a recording of my Zayda with me. Okay, so you got it. So again, I've got links here, so anyone who gets the main download link from me can look at these links, because we certainly wouldn't have time, but there are good resources to find out more about what's happening in these pictures. On the left-hand side is my Boba and her family, who were Jerusalemites, and she was part of what they called the Harrison family. So there were a lot of Harrisons in Cape Town. My auntie Rachel married her first cousin, who was a Harrison. So she became a Harrison, and her mother was a Harrison. So you can work that out, okay? And on the right-hand side is my Boba and my Zayda, and the three males in the family before the two females arrived. And my Zayda came to South Africa, and he turned up in Volksrust, of all places. And that little article there talks about his days in Volksrust. Also, that comes from the South African Country Community's book, Jewish Life. And it's a fabulous book, or series of books, to tell you where people landed up from the old country into the little dorps of South Africa. And Volksrust was certainly a dorp. I've never been there, but I know that my Zayda was told after about 3 years that he should get the hell out of there and move somewhere else. And he did move to Cape Town, to Wynberg. And then he was even told to get the hell out of Wynberg, although Wynberg was okay, and to move to Constitution Street, okay, which is where the city bowl and where all the activity, the Jewish activity, was. So any of you who Cape Townians understand that kind of history, it applied to them as well. Okay, this is, please pay attention, it's only an excerpt of the speech. This is the late Chief Rabbi Louis Rabinowitz, who made the toast at my sister Sorrel's wedding, and her husband Clive, in 1961 at the Cranbrook Hotel. We'd moved up to Johannesburg in the late 50s, and Louis Rabinowitz says a few things about this family, and this sums it all up. But look at his ability to speak and his wit, and the power of the language.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make it quite clear that the reason that I am proposing this toast has got nothing whatsoever to do with my name. There was a very famous Rabinowitz in Jerusalem, the late Michael Rabinowitz, who was a very great wit. And once upon a time he was so exasperated by a repeated question which was put to him that he put a half-page advertisement in the Hebrew paper in Jerusalem. And the advertisement said, "Important notice to the Jewish community. If you find two Rabinowitzes, they are neither brothers nor cousins." And it's true that I happen to have a brother in Cape Town who is also a Rabbi Rabinowitz. But I want to show you I have no family relationship whatsoever to the parents of the bride or to the grandparents of the bride. They belong to different Rabinowitzes altogether. And so I don't want you to suspect me of praising the family. The only thing I can say, ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time, obviously by their name, they were rabbis. And then they came zum Seichel. And they decided, es ist besser zu singen wie zu sagen. And these are the singing Rabinowitzes, the pianist Rabinowitzes, the musical Rabinowitz, the poetical Rabinowitz. I'm only the prosaic one. And ladies and gentlemen, it is of a family who I think I can say have music in their souls. Music not only temporal, but spiritual as well. The Reverend Rabinowitz, the grandfather of the bride, and let me say at once, ladies and gentlemen, that apart from one or two stray references I shall make, in the context of my speech, man embraces woman. When I talk about Rabinowitz, I mean their wives as well. Reverend Rabinowitz has served the community loyally, with devotion and with affection for over 40 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I will not be considered critical if I say that there are chazonim and chazonim. There are chazonim who serve the community by conducting the service in the synagogue, and that is the beginning and the end of their communal service. They regard it as something of a slur and a slight upon themselves if, God forbid, they were to come into synagogue for service during the week. There are other chazonim who regard themselves in the way the community would like a chazan to regard himself, and that is as the loyal and devoted servant of the community who serves the community with love and with affection, without thought of formal duties, but as a service of love.
Okay, so again, I'm not selling it, I'm just saying, if you get the link, you can hear the whole speech. It's 15 minutes long. It's just amazing. Okay, so as I mentioned before, my Zayda turned up in Cape Town, and he was very much part of that community. Again, there's a lot of information that I've gathered and I've collected. You can read it in Yiddish if you want on the right-hand side, or the equivalents in English. And those are the Rabbonim and Chazonim of Cape Town in 1953, when the Ponebasher Rav Kahaneman visited Cape Town. And one must also remember that South Africa at that time was on just about everyone's maps. The best Chazonim came to town. The best rabbis came to town. You know, those were the good old days. Imagine how I feel living in Perth. So, next slide. So it's another interesting story here. The picture on the left-hand side is of the Constitution Street and then the Friedrich Schule. And you can see various people that you may recognize in terms of the, I'm just trying to look for someone. In any case, I'll move on. Lichtman, who was the chazan who succeeded my Zayda in 1950. On the right-hand side is an interesting picture because that's of the founding of the Arthur's Road Shul in Sea Point, which was an Enchia Kerk before the Shul, okay? And some scallywags in the Jewish community decided that people were moving from Virginia Avenue in Friedhoek down to Sea Point, and they needed to find a shul, not the Sea Point shul, I think, which existed already, and they set up the shul. And those two gentlemen on both sides circled on my two grandfathers, Nachum Mendel Rabinowitz on the left-hand side, and Isidore Zeldin, Socher Zeldin, and a few other gentlemen, either Jewish or Enchi Kerk in the middle, doing the signing. Okay. This is also a gem. So this is Abe Sher, the late Abe Sher, who grew up in this environment, and just listen to the lovely story he tells. His son Julian and I interviewed him, or Julian did, I recorded it many years ago, and it's also a gem because there's a lot of other stuff that comes with it, but I'm just giving you an excerpt. Here we go.
And just a typical Shabbat in the Constitution Street shul as a kid, I'm talking about the mid-1920s or late 1920s, 1930s.
Early 30s, yes. I had my bar mitzvah there.
What was it like, you know, when you went there? For those of us who haven't had the experience, on a Shabbat, for example, what went on there?
Well, yeah, on the Shabbat, it's a similar service to the one here in Perth in the PHC, but you had your regular people. The shul was full on a Saturday morning because nobody. My father certainly didn't. They didn't work on Shabbat. Mm-hmm. They had 2 shops in District 6, which they gave up because they were so frum that they would never open it on a Friday.
Did the shul have a choir?
Which was the shul didn't have a choir, but the music of the shul was outstanding because Reverend Rabinowitz was the chazan, and he had the most wonderful tunes for every part of the service, Shabbat and on the Yom Tovim. And Hallel was beautiful. It's like attending a concert.
Were those tunes?
And the congregation joined in.
Were those tunes written down?
No, but I would think that Eli must have access to that because I know that certainly his father and his father's brothers knew those tunes very well.
Lovely to have all these little bits and pieces to put together a history. And I thank Julian and the late Abe for telling us that story. Now, I'm going to give you very short bits of the benching and the Sheva Brachot at my sister's wedding back in 1961. It's very short, so don't worry about that. But here's my Zayda. He was a very old man at that stage, and you can hear his voice was of an old man's very reedy voice, but just to hear his rendition.
Particularly the gentlemen, may I ask them to cover their heads? Reverend Rabinowitz will bench.
Now, here's my Uncle Abe, the part-time chazan. Beautiful voice as well. And you can hear how the Rabinowitz family had a lot of dreidels and a lot of different, how one would say is embellishments of the singing. It wasn't straightforward. It was very much representative of the kind of family that they were. The next one is my dad. And what you're seeing here are the clips of my dad in different aspects of his professional life or his communal life. And so there should be the recording here. benching. In today's world, people have left the function already. So that was a real concert from these guys. Just looking at these pictures, it gives you a good idea of my dad's involvement in the music scene. And I'll just run through some different slides for you as well. So this was him when he studied music. And you can see the very fancy certificate from the Trinity College of Music, London. And I think he was 14 for the one, around the age of 14. So they all got very good education in music. And he went to, it was then, I think, sax and also Heading Hall. So he was in several operas, operettas. Again, I'm just going to run through these because we want to play some more clips. So Hansel and Gretel. Some of these, if you look at the detail, and we won't have a chance to look at the detail now, you'll find some interesting bits of music, music that's, he sang. You've got, I'm just trying to think, Tchaikovsky, Joubert, quite a diverse range. This particular one, a lot of them were during the war for fundraising or towards the end of the war. And again, I'm not old enough to know these names, but I think Vera Popper was quite an important person in the music scene in Cape Town at that stage. So here's another program. Again, I think Henry Edwards Plaut, I've heard that name before. It sounds like he was quite a feature in the community as well. Interesting at the bottom there, you can see we were talking earlier on about anthems, Die Stem, and God Save the King. So very interesting. And that was from 1944. An evening of Jewish music. And again, various people that I think were very much part of the scene. Boris Rome, I think, was very well known. Jenny Sonnenberg. And then my dad trained the choir as well. So they were very much a musical family, very much part of their lives. This particular one was at Muizenberg. So of course, Muizenberg, there were the variety shows and there was the Vic Davis and so on. But my dad got involved in a very more professional environment. And a lot of it was communal. And we can see the accompanist there at the bottom right is Rachel Rabinowitz. So they often did gigs together. Now, this particular one is interesting because it's got the Yiddish on the left and on the right, and it says Solly Aronofsky, because that was a person, or Solly was a person that influenced my dad, and they worked a lot together when we moved to Johannesburg in around 1957. The other thing is sometimes you see those names in the adverts like Teitelbaum or Pollex, and for the older people, they might recognize those names. Okay. And he was part of the National Opera Company of South Africa, is on the bottom left-hand side. And again, just quite a versatile range, often performing with his sister Rachel, and they had recitals. This particular one is only them. It's in Johannesburg. It's Rachel or Harry. That's the whole program. And the other thing I liked, there was Nell's Rust Velvet Kosher ice cream. You remember Nell's Dairy? I remember that from my youth. So again, and that was at the Selborne Hall in 1957. And by the way, it says El Al Airlines, which is quite interesting. And then this was getting more involved with more organized Solly Aronofsky, who I believe was a musicologist and also ran the archives at the SABC in Johannesburg, as did Neville Conn, who you'll hear about shortly, who ran the archives at the SABC in Cape Town. So again, you can see the program is quite versatile. And my dad was a baritone. I didn't mention that earlier on. And so baritones weren't that much in favor as much as tenors. Tenors are glamorous. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try, how are we going for time? We're good? We're good, Geraldine? Yes, Geraldine, we're fine. Geraldine's still there. We're good. I'm going to keep going. So this is the famous record that he made on his master's voice, okay, Red Label. And when my father passed away and they had the funeral in Johannesburg, Rabbi Chaikin, the rabbi of Oxford CHOL, asked me some things about my dad. And he said to me, you know, he didn't know my dad, what was he like, and so on. I said, my dad produced an album on Red Label, RCA Red Label, which wasn't his master's voice, which wasn't common, okay? So the rabbi during the eulogy, and the eulogy, by the way, is on a Friday when they normally don't make eulogies in Johannesburg, okay? But my dad got a special dispensation, may he rest in peace. And then Rabbi Chaikin said he wanted to explain, and he's a Chabadnik, so he wanted to explain that Red Label is like Black Label in Johnny Walker. You know, it's that level, okay? So it's okay. Red Label in Chazonis is good enough for him. So again, this record, I'm just going to play your track. I might not play the whole track because we might be running out of time. So let me go with the first part. You'll recognize it. It also just illustrates my dad's ability to be a performer, an actor. You know, he wasn't a straightforward chazan. I mean, the family were all a bit crazy, and you get all that together, I suppose, in this kind of piece that he sang here.
Wenn die Jungen Reuen sind nicht weit, wird Red auf Chazonim, man lässt die Annoncen die ganze Zeit, von Vereinen und von Schulen und Minionen. Ach, sind verlangt, wo soll haben a Kohl, aber le muss auf zu daven in Gor in a Hall. Euch in a Theater für 50 Cent top, men davent joi mit Teubim, a viele in a Shop. Men nimmt dann Chazonim bei Verfahrherr, sie reißen die Gorgeln zu Gefällen, wo's mehr. Es kommen bald vieles, euch Cantors von Wien, a viele Jazz-Singers singen, le Keiloi Rechdingen. Und kommt dann an Altischker bald viele zu halten Probe Farikal und zu lass ich mich gewonnen und wie in der alter Heimat. Hey! Die Members alle Jingeleit schuschken sich ganz still. Und der Chairman schreit bald aus, ich weiß nicht, was der Publik will. Dann steht auf ein ganzer Front, klappt an der Kammerton und von a klein deutsches Siderell singen häupt heran. Adauschem, Adauschem, Rechem v'chanem erechapayim v'rav chesed v'rav chesed v'yemes na'tzir chesed lo alafim na'seyavan Die Members alle Jingeleit schuschken sich ganz still. Und der Chairman schreit bald aus, ich weiß nicht, was der Publik will. Stanzt bald unter ein junger Mann, fin an der Klaus. Kickt euch gar pink wie a Gei, in Davent azoi. Yes, mach, nas chelkai, yes, mach, nas chelkai, yam. Yes, mach, Moishe, yes, mach, yes, mach, Moishe, yes, mach, der Waschner Chairman schreit eis wie ein Hermann. Das ist
So we know who got the job. Okay, I'm going to run through a lot of things now, so don't panic. This was the Chazonim scene in Johannesburg in the 70s and 80s. My dad circled. On the right-hand side was the great and late Johnny Gluck, plus a few other Chazans. Bagley, another great Chazan. Just my dad and my brother and my cousin jamming around, having fun, relaxed. And I'm going to skip this one. We were just interviewed, my brother and myself, in New York by a guy called Charlie Bernhardt, who has a fabulous website of chazonim, and it's worthwhile having a look at that. And here a little bit about Rachel, and again, similar story that she was very active in the community. She performed in South Africa, Rhodesia. She toured many countries, Jerusalem, Paris, London, Brussels, and New York. So she got around, and that was written by Anton Hartmann in 1960. Here she's playing Claire de Lune, just a short little clip.
One of my favorites.
Okay, so now we heard earlier on about Stefan Grobe. Now, I'm not a music person at all, and it's just amazing that here Stefan Grobe appears again. I found this through Google, searching my Auntie Rachel on Google, and I found that there was a recording, and I could locate it in Maryland, and they sent me the image of the album cover, and there's a picture of Stefan Grobe. It's a piece called Invention. There are 4 of them, but I'm just playing you the one, and we'll just have a quick listen. Okay, now we're gonna finish by 8, if that's okay with you. 8 o'clock here, about 10 minutes, right, Geraldine? Anyone who wants to stand longer can ask questions, but I want Jill to read out something that we asked Neville Kahn. I mentioned him earlier on. He was at the SABC. He was also a friend of my aunt's and of my family. And he did this review for me of that recording, the whole recording, in November 2021. Okay, so it was recorded in 1960. So we had to wait several years to get the review. And here it is very quickly. Jill's going to read it to you.
So Eli asked the classical music reviewer for the West Australian newspaper, Neville Kahn, an old friend of the family, if he would review Rachel's 1960 recording. This is what he wrote. Rachel Rabinowitz was at the forefront of those musicians who worked tirelessly to bring music by South African composers to a wide audience, both in South Africa and abroad. In those mid-20th century days, there was too often an indifference to new music written by compatriots, and it says a very great deal for Rachel and her fellow musicians in this arts arena. This recording of 3 pieces by Stefan Scrovet is a model of its kind. Thoroughly worthwhile music that could so easily have slipped into oblivion without the pioneering attitude of these artists. In these pieces, we can hear the quality of Rachel's artistry, impeccable memory, wondrous clarity of presentation, and a faultless sense of style. During my years as, firstly, official accompanist to the SABC and later music producer, I was present at just about every recording session by Rachel of programs intended for later broadcast. I noticed then a quality which placed her in a unique category. She would invariably play her recitals entirely from memory. I recall an occasion when she'd been contracted to record a particularly complex and demanding score. But although I suggested it might be less taxing to use the score during the recording session, she insisted, as ever, on committing the work to memory and performed it faultlessly. Rachel and my teacher, Anne Scher, who was also my aunt, had been fellow students at the College of Music. They would occasionally play piano duets, which, as a child, I found a delightful entertainment. Rachel's brother Labe and his family lived across the road from us. Very occasionally, Labe would play the violin for us. I also recall vividly meeting and listening for the first time to Labe's brother Harry. On this particular occasion, Labe had set up a tape recorder to record Harry singing. In those days, this was a very rare experience. And as I listened in awe, not only to Harry's fine voice, but the recording of it when played back, I would have had no idea then of how much recording of music would figure in my life during innumerable pre-recorded performances at the SABC studios in Sea Point many years later. I'm also old enough to recall playing in a live broadcast in the Young South Africa series. I was 12 years old at the time, in the original SABC premises squash between the Delmonica restaurant and the old Royal Cinema. He goes on to say, this is Neville, I could write a book about your family, the Rabinowitzes, as neighbors. Your Uncle Labe had a movie projector and a number of movies from the silent era. We would watch them again and again and again, never got tired of them. We used to invent what we thought they were saying or singing amid gales of laughter. Such delightful, innocent fun, now a vanished world. Labe lived across the road from us, and I recall a session there with your dad, Harry, singing into a very early tape machine, which was followed by you, Eli, singing Tsena, 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 very loudly. How's that for a recollection? This might have been in the mid-1950s. Thank you, Neville.
Can I keep going, Geraldine? Yes? No.
It's fine, Eli. You know, if people have to go, they'll go, but you're welcome to carry on.
Okay, but we're nearly done. So I want to play you Neville Kahn. And this was when I interviewed him in 2021. He lives here in Perth. He was also for many years the reviewer for the West Australian. So just listen to his anecdotes here. Not too long.
story about Leib. He was the most popular man in Scott Street among the kids, because every now and then he would show a movie, a silent movie, in this one small room in the flat, and we would all squash in there, and it was absolutely magical for us. Television was beyond comprehension, and you didn't have to pay. If you went on Saturday morning to the Colosseum, you had to pay 8p.
8p, wow.
But if you went to the Rabinowitzes, not only did you see the film, but you were even given a chocolate. Those were the days.
Yes.
Well, what we did is we used to be very disciplined about this. You first went to the garden shul, you got the chocolates, and you ran to the Skunder Street shul, and then you ran to the Friedehoek shul. So by then, you know, chocolates were falling out of the pocket.
Lovely.
Percy Con, my dad, and Leib worked for months devising a board game. And I can't remember the name they gave to the game, but it was registered internationally. Monopoly. And then one day, not long afterwards, we were in the OK Bazaars, I think, and we saw this board game with this name, and it was someone else's board game, but they'd taken our name. So there was a whole thing in New York.
Yes.
And they had to change the name.
Really? No, that was
Rachel gave a terrific solo recital. I would have been about 10. That would have been 1950. And then she gave a recital with Leib. He sang, and it got the most delightful review. How beautiful to see a brother and sister, how rare that is. This happened years ago when I was the organist at the great synagogue in Cape Town. It was a particularly busy day. I think there were 4 weddings that day. And after, I think, the last one, to my surprise, Chief Rabbi Abrams came up the winding steps to the choir space and asked me what the name of the piece was that I'd played in the introduction to the ceremony. And so I thought, well, it's CHOL, I better tell the truth. And I told him that absent-mindedly I played Onward Christian Soldiers. The chief rabbi made no remark whatsoever, but turned around and walked in the most dignified fashion down the steps. I never played that piece again in the great synagogue.
This is just a short comment about my Auntie Sarah. Seems to have been forgotten in all of this. But she also was a pianist. And the examiner asked her if she was related to Rachel Rabinowitz, the pianist. When I replied, she's my sister, he said, you too are musical and you should continue to study music and make it your profession. It is thanks to him that I became a piano teacher. So there you go. This is the final point. This gentleman here, this late Tzvi Talmon, composed. He was the conductor of the Hechal Shlomo, and he composed this version of Ein Keloheinu, which was performed by Natan Hirschtik, but in this particular case, it was performed at the inauguration of the chief rabbi, Ephraim Mervis, in front of Prince Charles then, now King Charles. So you'll just see some footage of that, and it's performed beautifully. The connection here is that Tzvi Talmon was my dad's first cousin, so that the family music ability stretched right across from cousin to cousin. So I'll just play this quickly.
Ein Keloheinu
So I'm just going to cut it there. Just a slide here of my father, my mum, myself. This is in the 50s, my Aunt Rachel and my Boba. The bottom left-hand side are my siblings, me and my siblings. My brother, I think, is the only musical one who can play the piano very nicely. My cousin and myself, Jeanette, that's my contribution, the little recorder, and my Zaid and myself in the 60s. And the final slide to take us out is, again, the Rabinowitz family, my two uncles, my dad, and my two aunts, and my Boba and Zayda. So I hope they brought you all good memories tonight, and I'll just play out with this little song here.
Spielt mir diesen Rimlach, spielt mir auf, freilich sagt, tanzen lass mir gehen, mein guter Freund. Soll mir die ganze Welt abgegeben machen, dass im Krieg bei mir ein größer Heim.
Okay, so I'm fading it out there. And that's the end of my presentation that didn't really go over time. We just started late and there were a few other things that happened. Can you hear me?
Yes, lovely, Eli. If you want to stop your share, then you'll see us, and then you know, people are welcome to make comments or have a chat with you. So please raise your hand if you want to say something. Rochel, go on.
Yes, thank you, Geraldine. Eli, you're now the name behind the face behind the name. Every Shabbat or most Shabbats, I read the Stan Good Shabbos Man news, and Eli is all over the world. He's climbing mountains, but I didn't realize you sing along while you climb. So it now puts everything into perspective. Eli, as a Yiddishist, I really enjoyed the music, and Hilda from Cape Town is one of our members. So we're quite nicely represented here today. And as I say in Yiddish, Asheinen Dank. I think
Thank you. We'll be in Cape Town.
I'm in Durban.
Oh, you're in Durban. Oh, okay.
I'm in Durban. So yes.
I'll meet you in Cape Town. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Durban.
Okay, well, we're together in the magic of Zoom, and Eli is just so amazing in what he collects and what he puts together and the way he puts it together. And Eli, you've really given us a flavor of the Rabinowitz family and in all their Yiddish, Jewish, and classical performances. So, you know, it's been really thrilling to be with you and to hear your family performing.
Thank you.
Can I just add something? May I add something?
Hilda.
So Eli, I told you the story about Rachel playing the Golliwog's Cakewalk. I told you that before you started, when I was at school, and I thought it was so amusing, and then I got into trouble because I found the music amusing, and I giggled, and I got into trouble for giggling. But anyway, I think I was the only one who responded to the music. But what I wanted to ask you, now Neville, of course I knew Neville and Deanne Blatcher. She was the Spanish dancer, classical Spanish dancer. And I saw her making some cake there on the side as Neville spoke. And I remember him as a ginger-haired, thin guy, and then he'd had this problem with the face. Something had happened. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we were very worried about it. He had some kind of a palsy on the face. But anyway, what I loved was the Harry Rabinowitz, that long piece that you played, that towards the end showed how much humor he put into his singing. A fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I mean, not only a wonderful singer, but the comic side came through, and that was really lovely. But
I wanted to say I believe, because I'm young, I'm only 71, but I believe in the old days for Yontif, I think you could put the chicken, if it wasn't Shabbat, say Yontif, okay, during the week, you could put the chicken in the oven before midnight. And my boba, because there was so much activity at the table, everyone was singing and performing or whatever, they ate till it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sorry I missed those days, but it was quite a bunch of characters.
What a wonderful family! What a wonderful family! Really.
That's why I'm a bit crazy.
You're so lucky to have all those recordings, and from your grandfather. I mean, how amazing is that?
So I was lucky because people gave me stuff, you know, and I collated it, and I enjoyed doing that kind of things rather than the presentation itself. It's lovely to be able to connect things, and you know, I have different iterations. I can do it tomorrow in a different way, but it was just fabulous that they were all together. And my uncle Isaac was a doctor. He never said a word. he was quiet. He couldn't sing, and so imagine if he could.
That's just lovely.
It's been a lovely session, and very lot of connections between the two in the classical music. Lovely to hear Jeannie, and to hear about the Rabinowitzes. So thank you very much, Eli. Thank everybody for coming. Thank Laura for being with us and for introducing everybody. We hope to have these recordings available soon, and we look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be having 2 more presentations, and they'll be at the later time, the 6 o'clock time, South African time. And with Santi, we'll be talking about Jewish music collections at Stellenbosch. And what else is happening next week? Because it's King Kong next week, King Kong. It's Mark Wade and Alan Swerdlow talking about the whole background and the Jewish background to the presentation of the musical King Kong. So thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you soon again.